June 16, 2011, 6 a.m. Security screens across the United States suddenly freeze. Then something even crazier happens. The CIA's website vanishes from the internet. Not a power outage, not maintenance, not human error. Engineers scramble. Servers got slammed. Restart after restart. Nothing comes back. Inside control rooms, tension spikes. One question hangs in the air. What the hell is going on? Then, minutes later, a single tweet appears. Tango down. Under it, a link. The CIA's website. This wasn't a random hack. Not a warning. Not a threat. It was a public announcement. A message that said, the CIA just went offline. What happened wasn't a glitch. And it wasn't some forgettable cyber attack. It was a full-blown public humiliation of the most powerful intelligence agency on Earth. And the people behind it. Not a hostile nation, not a terrorist group, not a rival intelligence service. A bunch of teenagers. One of them was 16 years old, sitting in his bedroom in London. And here's the part that really messes with your head. The FBI saw it coming. They knew the attack was about to happen. And they let it happen anyway. Not because they couldn't stop it, but because they were waiting for something bigger. And what they decided to do with this kid, that part gets ugly. Truly ugly. And that's where this story truly begins. This is the story of a teenage prodigy, Mustafa Al-Bassam. But before we begin, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And now, let's get right into it. The question no one should have been asking back then wasn't how did the CIA get hacked. The real question was way simpler and way more dangerous. Who is this kid? Because honestly, nothing about it made sense. Not his age, not where he lived, not the path that led him here. Mustafa Al-Bassam was born in 1995 to a family of Iraqi origin. No criminal background, no dark underworld, no chaos, no gangs, no warning signs, just a normal kid. His family moved to London where he was young. A quiet home, a regular life. Nothing, absolutely nothing suggested that this kid one day would become a nightmare for the most powerful security agencies on the planet. When he was about 8 years old, his father bought him a computer, and from the very first moment he turned it on, he was hooked. Not because it was a new toy, but because he felt like he was staring into an entirely different world. He didn't see it as a device, he saw it as a system. His question wasn't how do I use this? It was how does this actually work? Why does this page load like that? Why does this button work here but not there? That curiosity grabbed him hard. He'd sit for hours in front of the screen, clicking, testing, watching patterns, and little by little he realized something. Everything he was looking at was built. Websites, interfaces, games. Someone wrote code. Someone decided what shows and what stays hidden. That's when he started teaching himself. Basic programming languages, HTML, symbol-based designs, all tools, messy code. To everyone else, he was just a kid glued to a computer. But quietly, something was forming, a skill, a dangerous one. And this is where the first mistake happened. Not intentional, not calculated. One day, he had homework, a math problem. He needed a calculator, no calculator around. But his computer was right there. So he opened a browser and typed online calculator, symbol site, plain interface. As he started typing numbers, he noticed something strange. The page wasn't locked down the way it should have been. There was a field that accepted code. He tried typing something random. The page didn't crash, it went deeper. He tried another line. Suddenly, files, data, things that were never meant to be public. That's when he stopped. Not because he was scared, but because he understood something important. This wasn't an accident. He was about 8 years old, and for the first time in his life, he felt something very few people ever feel. That moment when you open a door that were never meant to be opened. The computer wasn't a toy anymore. It became a tool.
Calculator had a security hole in it where you could basically type computer codes into this calculator and you can hack the entire website.
Mustafa started pushing further, learning more, going deeper, and before long, he decided to test himself on something real. Something close, something familiar, something he thought was safe. His school. The school server was barely protected. A weak password, outdated systems, almost zero monitoring. Mustafa got in. At first, he was just messing around with the website's code, tasting things, pushing buttons, and then it worked. He was inside. He suddenly accessed to things he was never supposed to see. Teachers' names, salaries, students' grades, full administrative files. So he stopped. He didn't delete anything, he didn't change anything, didn't touch a single file, he just looked. The real problem was what came after, because he was just a kid. He told a couple of his classmates that he'd gotten into the school server. Not to brag, not as a challenge, just kids being kids. Excitement, curiosity, that rush of discovery. The story spread faster than he expected. A few days later, he was called into the principal's office. A small kid sitting across a full school administration that clearly didn't know how to handle this. They asked him how he got in, what he saw. He told them the truth. In his mind, he hadn't done anything wrong. He didn't steal, didn't break anything, didn't hurt anyone. There was no yelling, no police, no courts. Just a warning, a call to his parents, and a very clear message. What you did is dangerous, and it can't happen again. Was that the end of the story? Well, on paper, yes. In reality, that was the beginning.
I also tried to hack my school computers and servers. They were quite poorly protected.
After the school incident, most kids would have gotten scared and backed off. But Mustafa did the opposite. The warning only made him more curious. He realized there was an entire world no one really sees. A world where names aren't real, faces don't exist, and rules are flexible. He started hanging out in forums, chat rooms, symbol-looking websites, with very heavy conversations underneath. There, he met people from everywhere. The US, Europe, Asia, different ages, one shared language, code. Some hacked for the money, some for the challenge, some saw themselves as fighters against governments and corporations. Mustafa was the youngest in the room, but he wasn't the weakest. He listened more than he spoke, learned more than he showed, and slowly his name started popping up. Not his real name, a handle, an alias. People began testing him quietly. Someone would send a piece of code with a tiny mistake, just to see if he noticed. Someone else would mention a system with a vulnerability and wait for his reaction. Mustafa passed every test, without even realizing he was being tested. In those forums, he saw every kind of hackers. The thieves, the money chasers, the fame seekers. And as he went deeper and deeper, one name kept coming up again and again in that word. A name everyone knew. A name that carried weight. Anonymous. Anonymous wasn't a group in the traditional sense. No leader, no headquarters, no borders. Just one simple rule. If you see injustice, hit back. Mustafa slipped into that world quietly. No announcements, no showing off. He was just there, watching, participating, learning how things really worked. He joined attacks, saw how a single decision could knock major websites offline in minutes. And in 2010, he took part in one of the most famous operations ever. The attacks on Visa and MasterCard. Why? Because both companies had blocked donations to WikiLeaks through their services. And in short, WikiLeaks was a massive thorn in the side of governments worldwide, especially the United States. They leaked classified documents, secret files, things that were never meant to see daylight. To Anonymous, that made WikiLeaks a symbol, exposing power, dragging dirty secrets into the open, punching up. So when governments pressured companies like Visa and MasterCard to cut WikiLeaks off financially, Anonymous responded the only way they knew how. They hit back. The attack disrupted services, caused millions in losses, and exploded across global media. For the first time, Mustafa saw a real-world impact. Websites down, corporations scrambling, headlines everywhere. That was the moment it clicked. He wasn't just a hacker anymore. He was part of something global, and that's when a dangerous question crept in. If we can reach this far, how much further can we go? But soon, something felt off. The hits were loud, the attention was massive. massive. Yet, the feeling wasn't victory. Anonymous was an idea, not a team. No limits, no discipline. Some people knew what they were doing. Others were reckless. Some were just there for chaos. Important causes kept getting buried under noise. That's when the crazy idea formed. What if it was similar? Tighter, closed, focused. A crew that hacked. For mockery, for exposure, for the laughs, for the lols. And that's how LulzSec was born. 6 people, none of them knew each other's real names. But they all agreed on one thing. We're here to laugh at your security systems. And yes, that's literally where the name came from. No one imagined that this joke would drag them into a direct collision with the most powerful country on earth. Once LulzSec existed, the game changed. They stopped testing small sites, stopped proving they could. Now they chose targets whose names alone echoed. And the first big one, Sony, a massive corporation, millions of users, security systems that were supposed to be bulletproof. So, did LulzSec pick Sony at random? Not even close. This wasn't luck, it was payback. Back in 2010, Sony sued a hacker named George Hutz. Hutz had cracked the PlayStation 3, not to steal money, but to show that users actually owned the hardware they bought. He published the method online, and suddenly, people could run homebrew software, even download games for free. Sony went nuclear. They sued him hard, dragged him to court, made an example out of him. From that moment on, Sony became fair game, a legit target in the eyes of the hacker world. And for LulzSec, it was the perfect challenge. The first attack landed, then another, then another. Databases leaked, user information spilled online. Sony's name dominated headlines. That's when things shifted. The laughs turned into fame, and fame turned into ego. LulzSec wasn't just a crew anymore. They were the crew. Media coverage, Twitter blowing up, thousands of followers watching every move. And the dangerous part, other hackers started feeding them vulnerabilities just so the leaks would drop. Under the LulzSec name, Mustafa later admitted it himself. For a while, we were more famous than we were careful. And when fame walks in the door, attention follows. And attention always brings the wrong people. In 2011, a cybersecurity firm called HB Gary decided to play a stupid game. They worked with the FBI, provided services to government agencies and major institutions. Their CEO went public, very public. He bragged that he could identify members of Anonymous and LulzSec and hand them straight to the FBI. Confident, cocky, way too comfortable. To LulzSec, that wasn't a threat. That was an open invitation.
An executive at this computer security firm, HB Gary, provokes them, goes to a computer security conference and says, I'm going to reveal the primary members of this group.
He ended up losing his job. There were death threats to him and his family. They had to move house. So the impact for him was very serious.
The response was brutal. They took over his personal accounts, emails, passwords. And here is where it got embarrassing. He reused the same password everywhere.
Their CEO was using the same password for his email company account, his PayPal account, his World of Warcraft account, and pretty much every single account.
From there, they walked straight into the company's internal systems. Thousands of private emails leaked, and what those emails revealed was worse than any hack. HB Gary, a company hired to protect privacy and security, was secretly discussing illegal methods to spy on people, manipulate public opinion, and violate privacy laws. The security company was breaking the law publicly. The fallout was instant. A massive media scandal. Trust collapsed, the CEO resigned, and the message was clear. If you come for us, you better not miss. Because LulzSec didn't just hack systems, they humiliated reputations. And at this point, they weren't just poking corporations anymore. They were officially on the radar of the FBI. And that's where the clock started ticking. From here on out, the state stopped laughing. What happened to HB Gary was the moment US intelligence agencies realized this wasn't just internet noise. This was a real threat.
In recent breaches, more than 100 million Americans had their personal data compromised. This is a direct threat to the economic security of American families, not just the economy overall, and to the well-being of our children.
And instead of showing down, they doubled down. Their next target was another cybersecurity firm, Infiltrated, an organization working closely with the FBI and hundreds of government-related entities. LulzSec didn't just breach them, they wiped the floor with them. The website was taken down completely. Internal emails leaked, employee names exposed, private communications dumped online. A cybersecurity group that couldn't secure itself. After that, confidence went through the roof, and that's when they went way too far. June 16, 2011, the website of the CIA goes down. No warnings, no build-up, just gone. Minutes later, a single post appears on LulzSec's page, Tango down, with one link attached. The CIA's website. The internet exploded. Social media lost its mind. Now, let's be clear. The CIA recovered the site fairly quickly. They regained control, but the damage already done. Because the headline wasn't CIA restores website. The headline was CIA website taken down by hackers. An embarrassment, public, global, what nobody knew at the time. From the exact moment on, LulzSec was under full surveillance, real surveillance. But here's the scary part. The government didn't know who they were. No real names, no locations, no faces. So where do you even start? LulzSec were smart, terrifyingly smart. Aliases, encryption, strict rules, no personal info. On paper, they were untouchable, but they made one fatal mistake. They trusted each other too much. And the real danger wasn't outside the group, it was inside. What Mustafa and the rest of the team didn't know was that after the Infiltrated hack, the game was over. From that moment on, they weren't annoying hackers anymore. They were a priority target. The FBI opened a full investigation. Not just into LulzSec, but into everyone even remotely connected to them. And even with all their precautions, there was one weakness they never accounted for: the human factor. One of the most important members of the group, one of the founders, no less, was the man who would flip the entire story upside down. His alias was Sabu, but his real name, Hector Monsiger. And from here on out, nothing would ever be the same. Hector was the oldest one in the group. He was 28 at the time, the only American member of LulzSec, living in New York, and his background, nothing glamorous. He grew up poor, a broken home. His mother was basically absent. The person who really raised him was his grandmother. His father was barely around, and when he was, he barely managed to cover the basics. That kind of life pushes you toward shortcuts. And for Hector, the shortcut was hacking. At first, it wasn't ideology, it wasn't justice, it wasn't changing the world, it was money. He hacked bank accounts, credit cards, anything that could pay. The goal was simple: survive and help his family survive. But over time, something shifted. Hacking stopped being just a way to make cash. It became a challenge, a rush, an identity. He realized he was good, really good, and he decided to use those skills for something bigger than himself. That's when he joined Anonymous and started taking part in their operations. Through Anonymous, he met other hackers who were on the same wavelength, including Mustafa. Hector, Mustafa, and 4 others came together and formed LulzSec. They worked as a unit, pulled off the hacks you already heard about, until they crossed the line that couldn't be uncrossed: the Infiltrated hack. After that breach, everything changed. As I said before, the FBI launched a full investigation, and somehow, a method that's still not fully public, they identified Hector. One knock, then another. His apartment was raided. He was arrested. They laid it out clean. 2 options. Option 1, federal charges, decades in prison. Option 2, full cooperation. Give us what you know. Work with us. Stay out. For now, Hector was trapped because he wasn't only responsible for himself. His grandmother, the woman who raised him, had died in 2010. After that, he became the head of the household. He was taking care of 2 little girls, his brother's daughters. Why him? Nobody knows for sure. Maybe the brother was gone, dead, absent, broken. What mattered was this: those kids depended on him. Prison didn't just just mean losing his freedom. It meant losing them, and the FBI knew that. They applied pressure hard. They even hinted that child services could step in and take the girls away. That was the breaking point. Hector didn't choose himself. He chose his family. He agreed to become an informant. The deal was simple and brutal. Keep working with LulzSec like nothing happened. From that moment on, everything was recorded. Chats, private messages, voice conversations. The FBI installed full surveillance tools on Hector's laptop. For almost 2 months, they watched everything, including the CIA hack. Yes, even that. The FBI knew it was coming. They knew when, they knew how, and they instructed Hector to go through with it, to participate, to not raise suspicion. Slowly, methodically, they started connecting the dots. One by one, they identified the members of LulzSec. All of them, except one. To this day, that identity remains unknown. Later on, Hector said he never directly gave names, because he didn't even have them. None of them used real identities. None of them knew each other in real life. But Mustafa saw it differently. He said, even if Hector didn't say names, the conversations were long, hours long. Sometimes it felt like family. And no matter how careful you were, something always slips. A detail, a habit, a time zone, a phrase, tiny crumbs. And when you collect enough crumbs, you get a face. For Mustafa, what happened wasn't a mistake, it was betrayal. And the first one to fall was him. He was living in London, but the security cooperation between US and the UK was already locked in. British police showed up at his house with a search and arrest warrant. The door was opened by his brother. Mustafa was in his room on his computer. From the first second, he felt it. Something was off. His instinct kicked in. First reaction, he shut the computer. Not because there was evidence on it. There wasn't. But because when you live in that world, you learn one rule early. When things fell wrong, freeze. Police came in, searched the room, seized every device, and took him in. His family was in shock. They knew he loved computers. They knew he was smart. But international hacker, national security case, that never crossed their minds. At the station, the interrogation started. First things Mustafa asked for, a lawyer. That alone surprised them. They expected a scared kid, 16 years old. Crack him in minutes. Instead, he stayed quiet. They handed him a list, 84 separate charges. Every hack, every breach, each one its own crime. The lawyer gave him one piece of advice. Answer every question with 2 words. No comment. And that's exactly what he did. They tried everything. Soft talk, pressure, fear. They said cooperate and it will go easier. Then they escalated. You could be extradited to the US. Mustafa didn't flinch. He knew 2 things. He was a minor and extradition wasn't happening. After 24 hours, he was released on bail. Around the same time, 3 other members were arrested. And just like that, LulzSec was over. Here is the twist. 3 of the members, including Mustafa, were all living in the UK. They didn't know. The first time they ever saw each other face to face was in court. People who thought they were family met for the first time as defendants. Another surprise. One of the members had claimed to be a 16-year-old girl. Reality, a 26-year-old former soldier. His excuse, extra protection, didn't save him. In the end, everyone sentenced to prison terms, ranging from 2 to 2.5 years. Everyone except Mustafa, because he was the only minor. His sentence, 2 years in prison. Suspended, meaning it wouldn't be enforced unless he committed another crime. On top of that, 320 hours of community service, unpaid work at a non-profit shop, selling clothes for the deaf community, a complete ban on internet use for 2 full years. He also had to inform police if he bought or sold any computer equipment. No encryption, no deleting browsing history, and all of these conditions stayed in place for 5 years. Time passed, sentences ended, and Mustafa turned the page. He walked away from hacking. Today, he works in another tech field. No longer the kid who took down the CIA website. Just an engineer, a normal guy. But one question still hangs in the air. Was what he did a crime? Or was it the natural outcome of a brilliant mind that outpaced the system around it? And if his talent had been guided instead of hunted, would this story have ended the same way? So, what do you think, guys? Share your thoughts in the comments comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe if you haven't yet. See you in the next one.